Thanks for coming to this presentation and discussion about upcoming improvements to Long Branch Local Park and Long Branch Arliss Neighborhood Park. My name is Christy Kabadi. I'm the Site Planning Supervisor in the Park Planning Division at Montgomery Parks. And I'd like to just say what a pleasure it's been to work with the Long Branch community over the past several months. I'm excited to continue our work together, and we're ready to show you some of our latest ideas and hear your thoughts. So let's jump right in.
Bien, buenas noches y bienvenidos a esta sesión. Soy la señorita Sigabotti y soy la coordinadora de este proyecto. Es un gusto tenerles aquí y vamos a hablar sobre las mejorías del proyecto en sí. Si usted quiere escuchar esta presentación en idioma español, por favor, una vez que se habilite la función de interpretación, diríjase a la parte de abajo de su pantalla y a la derecha verá usted un símbolo de un globo terráqueo, tal y como aparece en pantalla. Haga clic en él y luego seleccione Spanish, español, y una vez usted lo haga podrá escuchar esta presentación en idioma español. Asimismo, si usted tiene preguntas, en la sección que dice Q y A, que está en la parte de abajo de su pantalla a la izquierda, usted hace clic allí y escribe su pregunta. La puede escribir en idioma español, que será traducida y luego será la respuesta interpretada para usted en el canal de español. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Okay, so our presentation will be recorded and it'll be available to view at another time on our Long Branch Parks Initiative website. During this meeting, you won't be able to speak or share your screen, but we hope you participate by asking questions and putting comments into the Q&A box. And feel free to type your questions anytime during the meeting. We'll do our best to answer them after the presentation. And also the chat function won't be available, so please put all your questions into the Q&A. So tonight I'm joined by several of my colleagues from Montgomery Parks who are part of the team working on the Long Branch Parks Initiative and the improvements at Long Branch Local and Long Branch Arliss Parks. We have Rachel Newhouse, Park Planner and Project Manager for the Long Branch Parks Initiative, Ho Jung Garland, Park Planning Supervisor, Darren Fluchet, Park Planning and Stewardship Division Chief, Patricia McManus, Design Section Supervisor in the Park Development Division, Brian Lopez, Park Manager, and Sergeant Gerard and Lieutenant Wolf representing Park Police. Thanks everyone for being here tonight. The purpose of this meeting is to introduce the latest concept plans for Long Branch Local and Long Branch Arliss Parks and to hear your thoughts about our design direction. But first, we'd like to tell you a little bit about our Long Branch Parks Initiative. And then we'll talk about design recommendations for Long Branch Local and Long Branch Arliss Parks. And at the end, we'll have time for a question and answer discussion. As we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the State Legislative District 20 team, which includes Senator Will Smith, delegates Lorig Charkoudian, David Moon, and Janelle Wilkins. They've helped us secure state grant funding for Long Branch in the amount of $2.5 million for the Long Branch Parks Initiative, $250,000 for renovations for Long Branch Parks, and more than $360,000 for a new skate park in Long Branch. We also have other grant applications in the works for the Long Branch area, as well as bond bill funding for Long Branch Garland Neighborhood Park, which is currently in the detailed design process. And now I'd like to introduce Long Branch Parks Initiative Project Manager, Rachel Newhouse, who's going to tell us about all the exciting things happening with the Long Branch Initiative. Hi, Rachel.
Hi. Hola, me llamo Raquel Newhouse. The Long Branch Initiative, if you can go to the next slide, please. What is the Long Branch Initiative? So this is not just a looking at one park or two parks project. What we are doing is looking at all 10 parks in the Long Branch area. By thinking comprehensively about all the parks, this allows us to decide how to direct the best amount of money and resources to each park as we look at all of them and look at all the needs. These resources include capital investment funding, the grant funding that Christy talked about earlier, partnerships with organizations such as CHEER, the staff time, so you will have lots of staff working with you throughout this process. And we hope to get a lot of public attention focused on these parks. So what has our process been so far? We have come out to you all in the community with lots of public engagement. Most importantly, coming to you by knocking on your doors and asking questions as to what you think could make the parks in your community better. We've done conditions and needs analysis where we have looked at all the parks and looked at what kind of amenities could help make that park more exciting, make it more meet your needs. And we are also doing various park designs that Christy will talk about tonight. So, as I said, this is a comprehensive look at the entire area. The scope of the initiative is broad. Not only are we looking at the types of amenities to include, such as playgrounds, courts, fields, we are also looking at what other type of improvements would make this, really a better place for you and your children to be. We are looking at improving the environmental stewardship. So many of you may have already been out to the parks helping to clear the invasive weeds. We are looking at partnerships, like I said, with our partners such as CHEER, who have programs with trash collection. There's also teen programming. There's safety and security that we want to improve, as well as operations, which is also, our maintenance. So the maintenance of the parks. And you may have noticed that we've already started some of this initiative at the Flower Avenue Urban Park with providing new furniture, new lighting. There's a stage that allows us and our partners at Maryland Housing Partnership to provide programming and events and all kinds of exciting and fun things for this area. So with that, although the initiative is huge and covers 10 parks, tonight we want to talk with you about 2 parks, the Long Branch Local and Long Branch Arliss parks. And Christy will go into detail about those parks. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Rachel. The Long Branch Parks Initiative is really exciting, and it's been an amazing opportunity for us to holistically analyze the parks in the area and to think about design for each one. As Rachel mentioned, since last summer, we've been conducting a major outreach effort in Long Branch to learn about what residents would like to see in their parks. We knocked on doors, went to events, and collected information online. It was great to connect with so many of you, and we've really been enjoying our interactions. And all of this time together has given us a picture of residents' overall impression of the parks and their interests in future park designs. And one of the things we heard were overall concerns about existing park conditions, including trash, outdated amenities, and safety in the parks in Long Branch. We plan to address these concerns through design and operational changes as we begin to work on parks in Long Branch. And these things include improving maintenance access for trash removal and general operations, improving signage, and renovating the parks, of course, to encourage more people to be there more of the time. Opening sight lines and providing lighting in specific circumstances will help improve safety as well. And so we also defined goals to set a framework for design for the parks. These things were, trying to increase active use and improving visibility to improve safety, providing access for everyone, strengthening connections to neighborhoods, the community center, and the library, planning flexibility for change, including changes brought about by the new Purple Line, providing stormwater management, and emphasizing unique aspects of each park. As we started to look more closely at Long Branch, we understood that the major roads in the area, Piney Branch Road and University Boulevard, divide Long Branch into 4 parts. So grouping the parts into clusters in each quadrant helped us determine how best to provide amenities to people using the parks in their own neighborhoods. We started with the cluster of Long Branch Local and Long Branch Arliss parks. These parks are central in the Long Branch area and are connected by a pedestrian bridge over the Long Branch Stream Valley, which is the long segment that runs north to south through Long Branch. These parks serve the surrounding neighborhoods of single and multifamily homes and visitors to the community center and library. And because these parks are so close together, we can look at them as a pair, but with complementary but distinct amenities. So for the parks, we developed initial ideas and brought them to the Long Branch Festival in September. We talked with a lot of people at the festival at our table, which is pictured here, and asked them to choose their favorite plans and amenities. We had a lot of fun talking with people about all the great things that could go in the parks. And what we found were the people who stopped by our table were attracted to larger upgraded playgrounds, parkour, which is a sport involving moving from one point to another by jumping and climbing obstacles, and also a dog park for the Long Branch area. Then through our larger outreach effort, we also heard that playgrounds, picnic shelters, and soccer fields were the top 3 facilities people wanted at Long Branch Local and Long Branch Arliss parks. Residents were also interested in community gardens, courts for soccer and basketball, and a dog park. So this community feedback, along with our own assessment of area needs through multiple data sources, led to these recommended amenities for Long Branch Local and Long Branch Arliss parks. All this background work helped us to refine the park concepts. So I'm going to get started with Long Branch Local. Currently, Long Branch Local Park has a playground, a half basketball court, 2 tennis courts, a soccer field, a backstop for baseball and softball, and a community garden. The park covers 14 acres and is behind the Long Branch Community Center. There's a lot of topographic change in this park, especially from the parking lot at the top down to the existing field area. In fact, from the parking lot to the field, there's more than 20 feet of grade change. And none of the entries is easy to see. Many people don't even know the park is there. So the Parks Department recently acquired the property adjacent to the existing entrance on Langley Drive. That's up here. So we can open the park to the community better and improve the entry. We're really curious to hear from you about how you enter the park now, because it'll help us in our design work. It's one of the survey questions on our open town hall, and it'll be really helpful to us if you can take the time to fill out the entire survey when you get there. This new entry and parking area will give us the opportunity to open sight lines to the community and create a visible, attractive entrance to the park. We know that the soccer field at Long Branch Local is well used by the community, so a new soccer field will be a major feature of the park. Because it's next to the Long Branch Community Center and pool, And because of the park's large area, we're planning for an active recreation park with a new skate park, parkour area, basketball court, soccer court, and upgraded playground. A picnic terrace overlooking the soccer field will give the community a place to gather with family and friends. The existing community garden will be expanded to accommodate more plots. To give you an idea for the character of amenities we're planning for the park, here are some pictures of similar facilities. The soccer field will be a grass field with goals. The existing tennis courts will be converted to one full basketball court and one soccer court, which will give another place for soccer play and will complement existing futsal programs at the community center. The new skate park in Long Branch is really exciting and will be located at this park where skaters of all ages and abilities will be able to participate. Parkour is something we heard a lot about from the community, especially at the Long Branch Festival. It's a sport where you move around, across, through, over, or under obstacles, getting from one point to another, and it involves jumping, climbing, hanging, and other skills. It develops agility and strength and is something that people of all ages can participate in. The picnic terrace would likely feature grills and a shade shelter and will provide a place for people to gather with family and friends. Another thing we heard was important to the community. The playground will be renovated and updated and will be a visible play feature near the high point of the park. We plan to expand the existing community garden to include a few more plots available to people interested in gardening in this park. And here's one more look at the plan after you've seen all the different amenities. Okay, so now we'll move on to Long Branch Arliss Neighborhood Park. Currently, there's a small playground, a half basketball court, tennis courts, and a handball court in the park. Arliss is a 6-acre park behind the Long Branch Library. It's connected to the community center and Long Branch Local Park by a pedestrian bridge across the stream valley. The park's location next to the library and near the future Purple Line stop make it a natural location for community gathering. While we heard the community has safety concerns about this park, we're optimistic that the improvements planned here will attract more users and more eyes on the park. Because we see this park as an important community gathering place, a stage and large lawn will provide flexible spaces for events. When not being used as event space, the stage, shelter, and lawn can be used for picnicking, unprogrammed play, and other activities. This park also provides ideal conditions for a dog park in Long Branch. It is accessible for many different parts of the community and has ample space for dog play. A dog park could help with safety concerns because dog parks activate and populate a park at all times of day. A tennis court with pickleball striping, a basketball court, and picnic area provide active recreation in the center of the park, and an improved and large playground, which will be close to the library, will offer a convenient place to play. And here are examples of similar amenities. The community lawn with the stage, dog park, a court and picnic area, and an upgraded playground. So we're looking forward to hearing from you. So our next steps will be to collect the feedback from tonight and from the next month on our online survey at Open Town Hall. Our big question is, do you like these recommended amenities at each park? And if not, what would you change? We'll refine the concepts based on your feedback and the final recommendations from the Long Branch Parks Initiative. And then as we continue with our design work, we'll post plan refinements to the project websites for you to review. This spring, we plan to meet with the community to present recommendations from the Long Branch Parks Initiative. In 2025, we're anticipating the start of construction at Long Branch Local Park, and then in 2027 at Long Branch Arliss. Other parks in the area are also slated for renovation, and we anticipate those parks will be under construction in the coming 3 to 4 years, some maybe as soon as next year. And now I'll introduce Design Section Supervisor Tricia McManus, who will help us moderate the discussion. Please put your comments and questions into the Q&A, and we'll do our best to respond. Thanks, Tricia.
Okay, thanks, Christy. I'm Tricia McManus, and as Christy mentioned previously, our project team is on the call and we'll work together to address your questions and comments. Again, in addition to Christy and Rachel, we have our team includes Darren Fluchet, Chief of our Park Planning and Stewardship Division, Ho-Jung Garland, our Park Planning Supervisor. We also have Sergeant Trevin Sherrard from Park Police and Lieutenant Francis Wolf from Park Police. So as we go through the comments, I will try to direct them to our team members who I think are most appropriate to answer the question, but I'd like to ask, our team to just, if anyone has any information to add, to just jump in and let's make this a conversation so that we address the questions well. So I'm going to start. The questions aren't coming in the chat in the exact order they were putting in, but I'm going to work my way down through, and hopefully we'll get through everything. So the first question was, have we considered, I guess they're coming from bottom up. So no, I'll keep going and they might pop in random order. But the first question from Kate is, have we considered the community's interest in a community garden in Long Branch Arliss? So Christy, I know you've talked with our community garden coordinator, and did we have any thoughts about gardening in Arliss?
Yeah, hi. So we have been talking with our community garden coordinator and also with community garden advocates in the community. We've been looking at the waiting list and the list of people currently using the garden at Long Branch Local. So as I mentioned in the presentation, we will be increasing the size of that one by a few plots. I know there's been a lot of interest in a community garden at Arliss. I think because of the tree cover and some topography issues, we're probably not going to provide a community garden in the boundary of Arliss. But we've also been trying to work across agencies and see if there's opportunities for that in locations close to Arliss.
Okay, thanks, Christy. There's a couple of questions that I saw about the loop walk in Long Branch Local, and a question about what is the plan for the loop walk. And I think that, you can expand on this, Christy, but I think the idea of the loop walk is so that people can, get exercise around the park. And some people just like to come and watch and walk around the park and see what's going on and count steps or count, their mileage. And I think that's the purpose, in addition to providing access to the different areas of the park. But if you have anything you'd like to add to that.
That's right. I think one of the main things is we're planning to expand the width of the loop walk, and as much as possible to make it ADA accessible. One of the reasons for expanding the width is to help our operations team have maintenance access deeper into the park. So that's part of the plan. But yeah, we're really considering that as a community asset, and as we get into detailed design, we'll be working on how best to configure the loop walk so that there are multiple points of access and egress and ADA access as well.
Okay, thanks. I did see a couple questions about accessibility, and one comment here that is suggesting we add another staircase on the other side of the Long Branch Center that would come directly to the gardens. And then another comment that I had seen earlier about, it is very difficult to access the back, the back side of the community center from the parking lot up front. And I know that is one reason we're trying to, with the additional property that we acquired, is get some additional parking on that at that back entrance. But Christy, could you comment on whether you think another staircase would be feasible?
That's a good question. We've looked at it. We haven't looked at it completely in depth yet. It's not shown on the plan right now, but I know that there is a People's Choice path. There's a dirt trail going up there. There are quite a few trees and a lot of grade change in that area. So it's something we'll have to study more carefully.
Okay, but yeah, we're aware the access is difficult, and those are things we can take a look at.
Yeah, and part of the, I mean, we're really excited about acquiring the new property at the entry because it's going to give us a lot of opportunity for improving access. So we're looking forward to that.
Okay, thanks. This question about whether skaters have been engaged to discuss the design of the new skate park, and I guess highlight issues that are occurring with the Silver Spring and Tacoma skate parks. And we are definitely going to engage the community when that gets into the design phase, and we will have an expert designing that skate park. It would be a company that typically does design build of skate facilities. So we would, when we've done skate facilities, it is very important to engage with the skaters, and we would definitely, when we get to that stage, we would hold probably a specific stakeholder meeting for that element of the park. And anyone want to add anything, chime in, from our team here. The next question is that they don't see bathrooms in the plan for Long Branch Local. And because of the heavy use for soccer with big crowds, there should be some type of bathroom. And is that in the plan? And I think, we typically provide the porta-johns, and, as opposed to permanent bathrooms. I know there are bathrooms in the community center, but I don't believe we had plans to add a formal restroom. Christy, do you want to comment on?
Yeah, we've heard that that restrooms are needed in parks across Montgomery County from the public, and it's something that we study on a park by park basis. So as we get into detailed design, we'll be looking at that.
Okay. Oh, Rachel, you want to add something? Oh, no. Okay. I heard a little peep, so I'm encourage everyone on the team to, chime in. If there are specific design issues, I'm sort of going to Christy, but from the planning side, if others have thoughts, and from the security side, please chime in as well. So this next comment is, if Christy, if you could trace the loop of the trail, highlighting access points, crossings, and slopes. And that's a good question about the slopes, because I know that Christy looked very carefully at that, given the big, large grade changes in local. So I'm assuming this question is about local, but if it's not, let us know with another comment.
Yeah, so the as I mentioned, and as Trisha just mentioned, the topographic change in local is amazing. It's a big change, which makes it kind of difficult to get ADA access to all points in the park, but we're going to try our best to do that, because I think, as somebody else mentioned in the Q&A, it's difficult to get through this park with a stroller, much less a wheelchair, other wheeled vehicle. So yeah, I'm going to trace the loop walk. It will come to the top level up here. We'll have ADA access across the slope like this. And then there will be a loop around the backside of the soccer field. We're still studying this steep slope right here to see if we'll be able to get ADA access or if we'll have to have a staircase up that way. We will have ADA access to this court area, and we're also still studying the ADA access to Plymouth Street up through this area, where there's currently a pretty steep path coming down. And let me see what else. I think we'll have some other sort of intermediary paths in the park. And all of this could change during detailed design, kind of based on our study of the site and your feedback and other input we get from the Long Branch Parks Initiative. But that's the idea. And I think, we always try to have a loop walk of about a 1/4 mile. I think I saw that in the chat as well. So that people can kind of clock their steps or their mileage and use it as a fitness tool.
Okay, thanks, Christy. A comment here, Grace would love to see learning opportunities added to the park as part of the design. And have we thought about maybe what those could be? We certainly could, and actually I'd love for you to be more specific about what you think those could be when you fill out the open town hall, but we could, that's certainly something we can, we can consider and include in as part of the park design. Signage or yeah.
Yeah, I would just add to that I'm again, it would be great to hear a little more specifics, but I think we are talking about signage campaign that would be educational regarding trash or the stream valley. So kind of ecology and behavior, but we haven't quite gotten to that yet. We're so in the beginning stages of this, and we're looking forward to hearing what you think. So it would be great to get a little bit more input on that.
Yeah, that would be great. And, there may be things we can add to the playground area if it's specifically geared towards kids or, yeah, we'd love to hear more. And then there's a question here about trees, that it looks like we would need to remove trees as part of the plan for Long Branch Local. And I know, do you want to address that, Christy?
Yeah,
because we've looked at that.
We've looked at that really carefully, and we are definitely going to remove trees between the skate park and the existing courts. The good news there is that most of the vegetation and trees in that area are non-native invasives. And the reason we're doing that is we want to improve the sight lines. Right now, the court is kind of hidden from the rest of the park, and we want to be sure that everybody can see it. So that's one place we're going to be removing trees. Other than that, we're going to try to eliminate or reduce any tree removal in the park. And this plan is taken into consideration the critical root zones of existing trees and things like that. So I think the same comments can go for Arliss. We're not really planning to remove any important trees in these parks as much as we possibly can.
And we do work very carefully with the park arborist as we're getting into the detailed design to make sure even our construction techniques and are very careful and sensitive to development around trees. So we do, it's part of something we care a lot about, and we are very, we only remove trees we have to or are not in good condition. And there's a follow-up question here about shade, that the playgrounds in the picnic area must have shade designed into the plan, and how would we accommodate that? And I think we are proposing covered shelters that would provide shade, as well as we would supplement additional planting. I don't know if you had any other thoughts about that, Christy.
Yeah, I think, we typically can provide shade with shelters. Trees, especially if we're planting new trees, take longer to establish. So we are being considerate of having shelters in the playgrounds or near the playgrounds in the picnic areas. So, some of this also will depend on budget and how the budget is unfolding as we get into detailed design, but we do hear that shade is important. We hear you and we know that. So we'll be working on it.
Okay, thanks. And another question about, can we elaborate on the skate park at this time? This would be a great amenity if done well with a broad range of features. So at this point, I think we're at the very early concept phase, and we want to make sure, we've done this little test fitting of what might fit, and we really want feedback is, did we get the right amenities in the park? So I'm so happy to hear there's people who are happy about the skate park. But, we're not at the stage where we have any detailed plans. We're just trying to make sure we got the amenities that people want in these two parks. And if, I don't know if anyone wants to add to that, Rachel or Christy. We are also looking at other areas in the county, suitable candidates for skate parks and to get more additional skate facilities within the county. And I'm not sure if that's something, Rachel, you'd want to say
Hey Tricia,
few words about.
this is Darren.
Okay.
Hi,
Hey,
hi
Darren.
everybody. This is Division Chief for Park Planning and Stewardship. I really appreciate all the great questions so far, and specifically the question about the skate park design. And we've been communicating a little bit among staff, and I think one of the things we'll do sort of in response to that interest is later down the line when we go into design, we would like to solicit names of folks who would like to be interested in participating in a focus group on the specific skate park design, and drill a little deeper with a small group of volunteers who would be interested in providing insight into that. So keep your eyes open for that opportunity to kind of participate a little more deeply in the design. But again, as Tricia mentioned, that will come a little bit later in the design process. Right now, we're at the conceptual stage.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Darren.
And if I can add some more also, I'm
sure.
from Park Planning Supervisor. We particularly got the grant actually for the skate park. So we're actually really excited to hear the community is excited, and we're well aware that Tacoma Park Skate Park is so well loved by all the students, and we've been getting a lot of interest, and we definitely would like to provide more geared toward like teen for them to be able to do something in the park. So teen activities is something that Park has been focusing a lot. So parkour and skate park. So if you can actually provide more comment or any kind of thought, we'd really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Ho-Jung. Here's another comment seconding the request for bathroom accommodations, that people use porta potty even when there's not one there. So we hear you and we understand the need for that. And then will the racket courts include pickleball courts? And Christy, I think there was a thought about a pickleball at Arliss, right?
Yeah, so right now there are 2 tennis courts in Long Branch Local and 2 tennis courts at Long Branch Arliss, and we know that they're underused for tennis. So we're planning to put 1 tennis court at Long Branch Arliss that would be striped for pickleball, and it would likely have 2 pickleball courts as part of the court. But if that's something that you're interested in and you want us to hear more about, please put it in the open town hall so that we have a record of, maybe how much you play there or what you'd like to see. That would be really helpful.
Okay, thanks. This question is whether there would be a paved path connecting Garland Avenue or Whitney Street to Long Branch Arliss. And I'd maybe like to ask Ho-Jung or Rachel, that's sort of a bigger, or Darren, that's kind of a bigger picture connectivity. question. And I'm not sure what's in the master plan or you know, what's in the plans for that, for the bigger picture. Does anyone know that? If not, we can, we'll
I can
certainly.
jump in on that one too. The answer is yes. Right now, we are planning to pave some pathways into the neighborhood north of Long Branch Arliss. And they would, we're hoping we can connect those to Long Branch Wayne Local Park across the bridge at Wayne Avenue. Again, that's part of the Long Branch initiative. We're studying how that can work. And as you're probably aware, on the north part of Long Branch Arliss, there's really a beautiful tree canopy and lots of critical root zones. So that's something that we're looking at and that we will continue to look at, about how we can get an accessible paved route, you know, through those heavily treed areas. And we're hoping we can make that work.
Okay, thanks, Christy. And the next question is, once construction begins, what is the estimated timeline for completion? I think, you know, our construction projects, they typically take at least a year, you know, a big project like this, sometimes, you know, up to 18 months, but that's, I mean, that would be our best ballpark estimate at this point, but it also depends in part, like when the construction starts. So if it's starting where we have a large part of the year that's good weather months, you know, it moves a little faster than if we start, you know, in the late fall or in the winter. So I would assume it's at least 18 months. And then a question about what do we plan to do about the homeless that use the gully? And I know that's more of a beyond the design issue that, you know, I ask if our representatives from Park Police might be able to talk about, you know, some of the initiatives that are.
Good evening, Lieutenant Wolf with Park Police. I've seen a couple of these questions pop up in reference to homelessness, public urination, drug usage, alcohol usage, and whatnot. So, from a Park Police standpoint, just to give a little background to kind of answer and touch upon most of the questions that have been popping up, is that since for 2022. Park Police has assessed the data that we've had, and we've received 7 calls for service in the Long Branch playground area and the areas that have been kind of popped up. And we have issued citation warnings, but we also utilize our partners with different outreach groups for homelessness and whatnot. So we are looking at alternative ways to bring resources to the community to help with this. And I also saw something about contact and response. Park Police average response time is around 5.6, about 5.5 minutes to these calls for service. But in reference to the homeless camps or all this, is that once we're notified, we work with various groups to help get resources, work with our maintenance departments. And then also, too, we like to try to put forth information to help assess in terms of crime prevention through environmental design. And that's also in partnership with our partners with Park and Planning.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant. I see a question here from Grace. Did we obtain a grant for the bridge at Wayne? And there was Congressman Jamie Raskin, who I understand there's a representative from Congressman Raskin's office on the call tonight. He did support a federal grant for a pedestrian bridge at Long Branch Wayne. It would connect Long Branch Wayne Local Park to Wayne Avenue, and without people having to go deep into the stream valley, it would be an accessible bridge. I'm not sure that I know the request was put in. I don't believe we've heard for sure yet. And Darren, you might know the answer to that, but we definitely have support for that. And I did also want to, highlight, because I know there may be representatives from other elected officials on the call tonight, that the state District 20 legislative team, as Christy mentioned, has supported a lot of state grants for the Long Branch area. And in addition to the ones that Christy mentioned that are specific to these parks we're talking about tonight, they did get us money for Long Branch Garland. So far in state grants, we've gotten about $3.6 million from the state delegation for this area for various projects in Long Branch. And in addition to that, we have another 5.8 million in both federal and state grant requests that we haven't heard back, for sure on whether we've gotten them. But I just wanted people to be aware that, we really have the elected officials in this area are really committed to investing in this community, and so is the Department of Parks. So I just wanted to throw that out there for anyone who might be on the call, and that we are so grateful for the tremendous support that we've received for park projects in the Long Branch area.
And Tricia, I'm just trying to get confirmation on that, whether or not that one was successful.
Okay. And just moving on to other questions. And I think this was the question we referenced before about how difficult it is to get a stroller or a wheelchair, to that side of the park. And we will have more parking in the back, right? In the future as we develop that additional lot. So we are cognizant that actually these new facilities are going to bring more people to the park, and we will have some additional parking back there that would make it easier for particularly with people with mobility issues. And Christy, I don't know if you wanted to address that if you have anything else to add about that, but I think that's the grade change in this park is you would know for sure, but it's
really challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're probably all aware that when you're trying to make a path ADA accessible, it's almost flat. And we don't, this is a crazy grade change. I think one thing I will say, just to be very realistic, is that there's probably not going to be an accessible route from the parking at the community center up to the level of the park. But I did see in the Q&A, somebody suggested that there's an elevator in the inside the community center, and that maybe there was a way to connect the back of the community center with the park. I think that's a nice idea, and we could try to, again, work across agency lines to see if we could make something like that possible. It's not something we've considered, up till today, but it's a good idea.
Okay. A question about the length of the loop walk, and can that change? Do we know what the length of that is, Christy? I mean, I think we could probably put markers on it so people can track, the mileage they've walked, but I don't think we're at the stage yet where we've really measured it, but that's something we could consider.
I think it's about a quarter mile, which is what we try, is the shortest we try to achieve. When you say, could that change? Yes. Put your ideas in the open town hall. Again, I just want to stress that these are very early plans. And as Tricia said before, we're really looking to see if we kind of got the amenities right, and to make sure that, we're being transparent with you all and letting you know where we are. And so, your feedback will be very helpful in kind of pushing the design further along.
Okay, thanks. We do have one question about lighting and another question about security. A comment that it would be good to have extended hours or 24-hour access to the dog park with lighting, and that would be Arliss Park. And then there is also another comment about security in Arliss, someone who was injured, who was beaten there, and wants to know how we plan to improve safety and security in the park. So with respect to lighting and security, I ask our team members with Park Police and perhaps, our park planning team or Christy to kind of chime in on your thoughts about those issues.
Lieutenant Wolf here, Park Police. I'm just trying to find the comment in reference to an individual, a community member that was injured. But to cover safety for an aspect of it, Park Police does do a series of directed patrols or basically high visibility patrols where we would send officers out there, whether it be in marked units, on motorcycles, on horses. We have various tools at our disposal to include also our investigative units and whatnot. So in terms of when parks are out there, or we find that we see trends and whatnot, we'll also assess and then deploy different types of resources to help kind of put it out there as a crime prevention and deterrent. In terms of additional crime prevention through environmental design, that goes back to lighting and working with park and planning to understand good hours of operation. And normally too, that's just an open conversation with all community stakeholders and the commission when it comes to how long the lights are going to be left on or the operation of the parks or whatnot. But as for security and safety, though, if there's times where there's a question or you want to see additional patrols, just contact the Park Police non-emergency number, and we'll be able to kind of assess and work from there.
Thank you. And I'm Ho-Jung Garland from Park Planning. Again, so we actually had a conversation with the Park Police, prior to this meeting, and in general, it was very much supportable in terms of the walking path. Especially we are acknowledging the fact that Long Branch Arliss is community center. The library and also the local community center. It's open until late. So there are a lot of folks who is walking and passing to get to that to the building. So Park Police was very supportive on that. And then in terms of security, what we heard was, already there's a surveillance camera in the Long Branch local, and there could be a possibility to add in terms of Long Branch Arliss, and they could have a yellow flashing line so that people can be aware there's a security surveillance going on, so it can potentially deter any kind of crime activities. So we still have a lot of discussion going on with the Park Police, so feel free to add more comment in the chat. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ho-Jung. And I've been receiving some messages that we do have Nina Weisbroth with Representative Raskin's office on the call, and it's our understanding that the funding for that bridge was secured. If I'm getting that message, so that's really wonderful news. That's the Long Branch Wayne Bridge. So thank you for that. And moving on with additional questions, there's additional comments about agreeing about having a second staircase, if that's possible, towards the gardens. And a question, Christy and maybe Ho-Jung, that all of these areas are integrated with county spaces, and how are we coordinating with the county, specifically with the library? And I do know there are some, there have been a lot of conversations about the library and the use of the library relative to the park. So Could someone expand on that?
Sure. Yeah, we have had many conversations with folks at the library. I noticed a lot of questions about, homeless people in the parks and public drunkenness. The library has been working really actively on those issues, as well as our own police and operations teams. So yes, there is interagency communication, and especially at Arliss, it's a complicated little moment where in the back of the library, where some of that's on library property and some of it's on parks property. And so we will be continuing those conversations.
And in
We're-
terms of interagency with the also for Long Branch Rec Center. So when we reached out to Long Branch Rec Center, they were suggesting actually pickleball, considering there is a senior center. So it was interesting that actually today there's some attraction about the pickleball. So something to share about the pickleball is it's one of the faster growing facilities and the sports in United States. And then we've been, as a Montgomery Parks, we've been actually implementing a lot, these days throughout the county. And what it is a very social sport, and a lot of people are still driving. So someone was mentioning about like Flower Drive type of facility. That's actually the huge cluster as a mega facility that's going to blow our parking. So at least as a small scale, one court, we are actually considering definitely to have a pickleball. But one other thing that we're definitely being mindful is about the noise aspect. We need to be mindful about the certain distance from the residents, not to cause noise issues, because that's also another side effect. It's been well recognized throughout the United States as well.
Okay, thanks, Ho Jung. We have comments that, so do we have Paul Ellis, I think, with Representative Raskin's office? I think,
So
would you like to say a few words?
thanks.
Thanks.
I'm actually with Councilmember Kate Stewart's
okay,
office,
okay.
but I just wanted to briefly say our office has been in touch and attending meetings to ensure that there is coordination between parks and the libraries, and we'll continue to make sure that the agencies are working together, and you're doing a great job tonight. So thanks for that. But I'm representing Councilmember Kate Stewart tonight. So you're a council
Okay.
member if you live in this area. So.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm getting it all mixed up. I'm trying to read all these comments in the chat, but they're coming in so fast and furiously. I can't keep track of it, but thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, Trisha, I was going to say, I love all the participation, and I really appreciate everybody's comments. It's great to see all this so that we can understand your ideas and priorities.
Yeah, and here's a question about if we could address the plans that were mentioned for improved cleaning and maintenance. And I don't think our park manager made it to the meeting tonight. I don't know if there is anybody on our team right now who could address the ideas that we have for that, or if not, we could address this question, follow up with that in our notes for the meeting. But does anyone have information on that?
Yeah, in terms of some operation, we've been actually having an extensive meeting with the operation staff, and also the park police as well, and also volunteer office. So in terms of cleanup, there has been very active, almost weekly volunteer cleanup going on, and particularly including the NNI as non-native invasive species. And what it is like those has been also causing blocking some of the sight lines, and therefore causing some of the septet issues. So we're definitely well aware. And we also got the some grant award, for a year, and to be able to designate the volunteer staff who can coordinate a lot more for the weed warrior and cleanup aspect. So that will actually have a lot more help in the area as the designated matters.
Okay, thanks, Ho-Jung. This question, this is a good comment here from Kate, who is concerned that the two parks with their different amenities don't support integration across our diverse community. And I'd like to see these amenities shared more across the spaces so that people from diverse backgrounds feel that both parks have amenities for them. And that's an interesting comment that maybe, our Christy, do you have thoughts about that? I know that, in terms of selecting which amenities went in which park, a lot of it was based on the physical characteristics of that park and adjacencies. But if you have sort of some thoughts on that, that would be
Yeah,
interesting.
I do have thoughts on that. I mean, we've done a really big outreach effort, and we've tried to reach all kinds of members of the community. And I think we've been pretty successful at that, which is really nice. So some of the things that we heard about that were that, people wanted places to hang out outside with their friends and families. So I think you can see that there's sort of an emphasis on picnic areas or areas with, group congregating spaces. We also heard that grills were important to this community. So a lot of these picnic spaces that we're planning will include grills. And at Long Branch Local in particular, we've included this picnic terrace, which is sort of an overlook over the soccer field, so that families participating in soccer can have the rest of their family there, either playing at the playground, and maybe the picnic terrace is a home base for everybody watching the games and watching their kids on the playground. We really have tried to take that into consideration. If you think we're falling short, please tell us in the open town hall. We're also trying to provide extra soccer courts for the community, because we've heard that soccer is something that this community in particular is most interested in. So, we are listening. We're trying to actively listen and hear what kinds of things will be enjoyable for everybody. And, I think we're presenting a wide array of amenities in each of these parks. I hear you about people feeling like they belong in a park, or people feeling like there's something for them. And we really are endeavoring to do that. So if you think we've fallen short of that mark, please let us know, like in specific ways, how you think we can fix it.
And I can add some more aspect. We intentionally designed this park as more functional based, rather than like any kind of certain race based. Because, once you provide a certain park with a functional base, so hopefully different race can integrate it per their function. So having said that, Long Branch Public Library is right by, and we've been well aware, community has been wanting to have more gathering spaces, especially considering the library open top, patio space, and things like that. And there has been structural barrier to create such a space. So we really wanted to offset that kind of needs in the park space, providing the stage and things like that. So by providing those space, we perceive this more Arliss as more civic gathering, as a family gathering, versus the Long Branch Local as a local park is more physically sweaty, physically active, and that kind of space. So, soccer field, skate park, all those are kind of geared toward more physically active. So hopefully those functions are kind of getting balanced and to provide certain characteristics of the park, but still be able to integrate different race and culture as well.
Okay, thanks, Ho-Jung and Christy. We have a comment here about a suggestion about perhaps creating terraced community gardens, and that's certainly something we can take a look at when we're into the design. A question, and I see that we do have our park manager now, Brian Lopez, on the call. There is a question here about bathrooms are really important because the rec center is not open on Sundays. And maybe, Brian, there were some earlier comments about, how we would provide restroom facilities, and also sort of a general comment about, improved maintenance and how we would address maintenance. Could you, do you have some thoughts about restrooms or porta-johns, and also about, issues associated with how we design these parks, how we maintain them, how we can, keep the parks in good condition?
Yeah, so we did talk with the design team about possibly having bathrooms and whatnot, and typically it would just be maintaining like a shelter. I don't know, for example, like Wheaton Forest, where staff would maintain it. Going out there once a week. 5 times a week. Once every day, to go in there, clean it, and just update the facility. But as far as on the operational side of things, that area is a huge problem area for us as far as just with trash. But to be honest with you, a lot of times when we do see a bunch of trash, it's a large crowd out there, like the community gathering. Sometimes it's just us just stopping by and giving the community members a bag, and they'll pick up their own trash, just as long as it's there for them, and they work well with us. So we even had that, try to come up with an idea, maybe having some signage like, leaving bags there, like, hey, take this bag if you do have trash or whatnot. We do our best to. We probably are in that area at least 3 times a week, trying to maintain it. And like I said, the community, from ever since I've been here, they always worked well with us. But yeah, to the bathroom thing, we're not opposed to bathrooms or porta johns, as long as we can have access to it for our maintenance teams. That's probably the most important thing.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Brian. Here's a question that, some of these park plans were approved a few years ago. So what's holding up the actual construction? And I do want to kind of address like all the projects that are happening. It's funding, it's getting permits, but we do have like the projects that are happening right now is the Long Branch Trail renovation. I think we just completed that. We have ongoing projects for like 5 trail bridge replacements along the Long Branch Trail, and those are underway right now. They're 1 or 2 of them are done. They're getting close to being constructed. The next projects kind of coming to construction is Long Branch Garland, where we're working on permits, but it's a little bit tricky when you have stream crossings, and we're trying to take advantage of the DOT right of way to expand the park a little bit. So though that coordination takes time to get those permits. The next project coming after that is Long Branch Wayne Park renovation, which is in detailed design right now. So that will be, and we have funding for that. And then this next one, Long Branch Local, will come after that. So, as we have funding and we're continuing to get, funding for this area, we're chipping away at these parks, and you will see them getting built a lot of parks in this area getting built over the next few years. Arliss would be probably after Long Branch Local, because it's not quite as far along. And then, we will be also working on New Hampshire Estates park renovation that is in the program, given, the impacts the Purple Line is going to have on that park. So it does take time to get these plans completed and get construction in the ground, but we have a lot underway right now. So I'm hoping in the, the next few years, you're going to see a lot of work getting done. And finally, so, it's coming and we're doing, we're committed to it. So I just want to, emphasize that. We're at about 10 after 8, and I still see a lot of questions in, I'm going to try to run through these maybe a little bit faster so that we make sure to try to get to everything. A question about, is lighting being considered for the new amenities in either park? And Christy, did I think we've had some conversations about lighting. Could you address, where we are considering lighting in each
Yeah,
of these park plans?
I think Ho Jung touched on this a little bit later, but or a little bit earlier, excuse me. We are looking at lighting in the areas of passage from one part of the park to another. This is something that's evolving. We're working with all of the different departments within parks to coordinate on lighting. In terms of lighting, what specific amenities may be lit, I have to say we have not gotten to that level of detail yet, but we're looking at it. We know that lighting will be important from a security standpoint in some of these parks. So.
Okay, thanks, Christy. A question, maybe Rachel, about the Long Branch Parks Initiative, that it ends at Carroll Avenue. And do we anticipate extending the project southward across Carroll Avenue to the lower reaches of Long Branch? And this is from David Reed, president of the Long Branch Sligo Community Association.
Okay, yeah, thanks, David. Currently, we had not identified any parks or future projects south of Carroll, but that doesn't mean we can't. It would be helpful if you were to identify some specific things you would like us to consider, and then we could expand the initiative.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. Questions about, will the walks be paved in Arliss? And that answer would be yes, that, they will all be accessible. And someone would like to help us plan our pickleball, and we'd be happy to hear from you. So, let us know your thoughts about that. I think we addressed homeless people in the park, but if anyone from our park police has anything to add about that, how will the concern of people sleeping in the park be addressed? I don't know if we have anything in addition to add to the comments that were previously made. And then the comment about the bridge at Wayne, if that bridge is added, an ADA loop would be accessible. And I'm not sure if that means within Wayne or from these parks to Wayne, Long Branch Wayne. Oh, here's a question. Can the skate park be named for Tyree Nichols? Go ahead, Sergeant Sherrard.
Yeah, so what I can say is that as far as the homeless individuals sleeping under the at the parks and under the bridges, that's something we're still working with, and we've actually been notifying the appropriate personnel about that, so so that they could come out and assist with addressing that situation and offering those individuals or providing those individuals with resources which could potentially assist them in finding housing. So we are still looking at that. It's not being ignored. It's just the problem is I believe they're running out of space at the shelter, if you will. So there's like a waiting list. But I am in contact with an individual who's coming over, and I'm providing these locations of the individuals that's homeless, and then they're coming out trying to provide resources for them.
Okay, thank you. And there's another question about security, which is what about the coordination with the police department? What is the point of having a renovated park if the safety is still questionable? And I do think, we work very carefully with park police when we design parks and, institute the principles of crime prevention through environmental design. And I know that having more people in the park, new facilities with more people in the park, does essentially make a park safer because there's legitimate use going on. But I don't know if Park Police wanted to add anything more about safety and how we would address safety.
So, Lieutenant Wolf of Park Police. So in general, though, too, when it comes to the crime prevention through environmental designs, a lot of that is also with assessment, with park and planning, looking at areas that may need extra lighting, areas that we could put different types of stationary cameras, whether it be a trailer camera, a pole camera. I did see some comments about call boxes. That is something that we do look at for tools that we can utilize for this. And overall, we look at also things as like maybe there is cuts that are being done, and we work with maintenance to make sure that when there's debris or any type of construction going on where they maybe make a little caveat into like the wood line or things like that, we try to assess all these various points of interest that we can kind of adjust that way, that it creates a little bit more open area and doesn't allow for individuals to loiter around or to be off the beaten path where they could be up to illegal activities or whatnot. But it is something, though, too, that our basic patrol officers that are out there, our criminal investigators, our IT department, and security technology, these are things that we are assessing and that we are, in fact, when brought forth to our attention to, we work in conjunction with the commission on these items.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant. There's a comment that could the skate park be named for Tyree Nichols? And I mean, that's, I'm not sure what our naming policy is for park facilities, but that's, I would think that's something that could be considered. It would probably need to go to the planning board. I don't know, Darren, if you have, if you have information about how we name facilities, but it's certainly, I don't actually know the answer to that question, but that's certainly something we could look into and post an answer, you know, with our meeting notes if we don't have anyone who knows the answer to that tonight.
Yeah, we have a naming policy that I believe was updated recently, and I would have to check to see what that is, but it's certainly an idea that we can consider, and I think you're right, Tricia, we probably have to end up going to the planning board with that, but we will take that under consideration. Thank you for the suggestion.
Okay, thanks. The comment that the plans are prioritizing human use over native plants and animals, and have we considered the environmental impact of reconstruction, that we should balance this with thoughtful landscaping. And I think that's a, you know, a good comment and something that we'll be taking a closer look at as we move forward into the detailed design. I do know that our park management team is looking, especially on like steep slopes and areas that are difficult to maintain, is looking at, you know, converting some of these areas to more, you know, meadow-like areas. So that's certainly something we can look at as we move forward into the design.
And I would add on that, we've been actually having also a lot of talk with the natural resource team that, you know, sometimes also to reduce some of the mowing area, that having a meadow or habitat space for bird sanctuary and things like that would be also providing natural resource-based recreation. So that is another thing we're definitely in consideration. We also had a conversation with the sustainability plan team, and they were suggesting that, you know, before we were considering like native species, but considering all these climate changes, climate adaptive species is something that we should be considering, and also considering that reduce the heat island effect and provide more shade and things like that. So that is something that we're definitely in communication. So thanks for the note.
Okay, thanks, Ho-Jung. And question, will there be drinking fountains in the park? And yes, we can provide, you know, that's a basic facility that we can provide in these parks and should be in heavily used parks. So that's certainly something we can provide, you know, when we look at the design, because we know there's water at both of those sites with the buildings that are there. And would the woodlands that are part of the property be affected? And we don't really intend to you know, our intent is to preserve trees and woodland areas. So we will be looking very careful at our limits of disturbance for both of these projects, and, you know, looking to preserve the wooded areas. A comment here about, I'm going to try to go through faster because we're getting, I still see a lot of comments, and we're, you know, we're coming close on 8:30, but if that we could get some input from the kids, the local elementary school students with the playground design. So that's a great idea. We'd love to do that. We've done that on other park projects. So we would love to get some ideas from the kids in the community on the playground plan. So that's a great idea. And then again, comment on bathrooms for signs about environmental signs about trees and in education. I think we had some of those comments earlier about in multiple languages and in sign and braille. We do have a program now for communication boards that we put into most of our playgrounds now. It's a new initiative that helps you know, language, and with little kids and they include braille, they include multiple languages on them. So that's a good idea that we could accommodate. And then there needs to be, again, this comment about access from the rec center up near the gardens, that it's badly eroding, and we can take a look at that in the design. Would love to see more arts engagement opportunities for all ages in the parks. So that's more about events that might be happening. And Rachel, you know, you've been so involved with the Long Branch initiatives that it's not just about, you know, infrastructure and facilities. It's about events and those kinds of things as well. Do you have any comments about, you know, what might be happening in terms of events?
Well, we recently met with our park activation team. They have provided events in the past. They've had yoga in the park. There's been tree climbing events in the park. There's, you know, some festivals, but they plan to do things in the future. No, we don't have specific things and dates yet, but they are very aware this community loves to have all kinds of active events and programming. So that will be coming in the future, and we'll know more about it. And as far as art and, you know, artwork and sculptural work and murals, we would love to incorporate more of that in the Long Branch parks. There's some beautiful murals now. We've talked about possibly doing some pavement murals in some of the other parks like Quebec Terrace. So yeah, I love that someone commented about arts. Yes, we love the arts as well.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. And here's one more comment about that it would be nice as a learning opportunity to partner with the library for story walks, like is done at the Noyes Library in Kensington. So that's another sort of thought about activities. Yeah.
Great idea.
And actually, can I add something for the prior question about the activation? Actually, we had a meeting with the activation manager as of yesterday, and he would love to get actually community's input about what type of activation, you know, we would like to, you know, you would like to see. We've been having like yoga with the even translator, but we would love to see actually more of local rather than, you know, adjacent to community, you know, folks participating. So he would love to actually get the input. So, you know, please write any of the suggestion you have. And regarding the park, I'm gonna take this as an opportunity that February 22nd, we're inviting the public artist whose name is Jack Becker. And he is actually very focused on how to use public, you know, when we are talking about art, it's not just about art, but also how to make a participatory public art. And I've been asking to consider actually the Long Branch area as a pilot to make those kind of participatory art to have a community engagement and empowerment. So if you have any additional also creative idea, feel free to write a comment. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ho-Jung. Another comment seconding the request for shade. So we're well aware of that, and also about if we can accommodate additional plots in the garden, that those would be claimed quickly. So that is certainly something we could look into. And I know there have been some thoughts about the library property, that the community garden that is happening. I think, Christy, you had mentioned, there's a separate initiative that's going on to investigate that. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So I believe that the library is considering uses for the space behind the library, and one of the ideas is a community farm or community garden of some sort.
Okay. And another question, Brian, this would be for you about, well, the question is, what are the plans for trash cans, and who would be responsible for removing the trash after weekend use? And that would be our park management team. We do locate the trash receptacles, in areas of the parks that can be accessed by our park management team. But I know that, there is a lot of trash that's usually in the park, after a weekend of heavy use. But Brian, do you want to address, I think the park managers are open to, they keep an eye on the trash very carefully, and we add additional receptacles as they're needed. But Brian, do you have any quick sort of thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, just like any other park, we'll run a 7-day trash program, and if we find a need to put more trash cans in that any location, we'll watch it, and of course add cans as needed. But it's a 7-day trash program, maybe twice a day if need be, 3 times a week, but ideally once a day for 7 days.
Okay. And there's additional comments about securities, other activities that shouldn't be occurring in the parks. And I think, when people see that, they should contact park police. But that, those are some of the issues we've talked about earlier. Again, accessibility about strollers. And before the work is done on Long Branch Local, would it be possible to get parts of the walking loop that are filled with mud and slippery fixed in the interim? I think that's something we can take a look at if there are specific areas that are hazardous or need to be repaired. I think that's something we can certainly take a look at, some kind of interim repair. Then additional comments about the trees and in the area, the shelter. Yeah, so again, we talked about the trash, an idea about adding electricity to the pavilions. And I do think that's something we'd likely, Christy, is that something we would add to support events, to have that available? That's something we could do.
I think it's something we're looking at. Yes, for sure. Looks like Ho-Jung might want to say something about that.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, thank you. That was another thing also. We had a active conversation with the activation manager. He would love to actually promote more of communities event, by the community, not just like us hosting the event. So he was, talking about recommending the outlet that those community can utilize. So that way, it's not always that we dictate some kind of program, but also it's organically can be grown by the community itself. And we do definitely acknowledge, by doing so, a lot more eyes on the park. So a lot more people are coming. So hopefully it can help improve the homelessness issues as well.
Okay, thanks, Ho-Jung. There's a question about, and Darren, you might be the best person to address this, but is it possible to extend the Long Branch Trail through the parks and further north along the stream valley. And I know that's been looked at, you know, in the past. Are there plans for potentially connecting to Wayne?
We will, that's a great question, thanks. We, as part of the Long Branch Initiative, we're looking at overall trail connectivity. There are pretty significant constraints in terms of the floodplain stream valley there. You know, we will try to be as creative as we can and make sure that we're supporting overall connectivity. And we know that trail connectivity is a big priority for the plan. I can't speak to what specifically that will look like right now, but we do encourage folks to continue to engage with us as we develop recommendations for the entire Long Branch area. And we, as I think Rachel mentioned, will be having a larger public meeting about that in the spring. So stay tuned for that, and we can talk through the greater trail connections at that time.
Okay, thanks, Darren. And I know we're kind of at our time, and we do want to respect everyone's time, but I just there's a lot of additional comments here about security and, you know, homeless, plans about, you know, comments about lighting specific facilities, and you know, and policing and coordination with Montgomery County.
Trisha, I'll just say, even if we didn't get a chance to read or address your comment, we are reading them all, we are tracking them all, and
yes,
and so we will definitely listen and continue to take it all into account. So thank you.
So you know, I do want to let everyone know, you know, we will address, you know, comments in our meeting notes, you know, as a follow-up to this meeting. We'll make sure to carefully look at all the comments, and we so much appreciate everybody so much participation and so much interest, and all of these great thoughts and ideas that we do want to hear, and we do want to hear more in our open town hall survey. So we hope you will go and you know, complete that survey and give us all your ideas, any additional ideas that you have. And you know, if you do have, even after you've taken the survey, if you have additional questions or comments you think of later, or if we didn't address something well enough tonight, you know, please feel free to reach out to Christy or Rachel directly. And, you know, before we close the meeting, I do want to acknowledge some of our other staff team members who have been supporting us on the call, particularly Michelle Ramirez, Melissa Chotner, and Aaron Pant from our public affairs office. You know, Michelle and Melissa support us on all of these Zoom calls and meetings, and they do everything related to public outreach for projects and initiatives. So from mailings and signage, events and surveys, we really appreciate their help so much. And I also want to thank Carlos Osuna and Amadeo Victor Baltazar, our 2 Spanish language interpreters for this evening. So we really appreciate their help and support. And, you know, I want to thank, you know, the entire team. We couldn't do it without everybody's help, and really thank all of you for your participation and your great ideas. Christy, I'm going to turn it back to you if you have any final thoughts or comments to close the meeting tonight.
Thanks, Trisha. You did a great job too. It's hard to wrangle all those questions, so thanks for that. I just really appreciate all of you, all of our staff, and thank you for coming tonight. We look forward to our continued conversation. So please do be in touch. Please go to the open town hall. There's an open question where you can write your thoughts, and we look forward to reading them. And as Trisha said, we'll get back to you with meeting minutes, and look forward to seeing you in the spring when we come to talk about the Long Branch Initiative. So with that, we can close the meeting, and again, thank you. Good night, everybody.